Good morning, good people, brothers, sisters, and beautifully defiant siblings in the movement. Welcome to the unapologetic voice of labor, equity, and action. This is CWA Our Power Radio Show, where we amplify the organizers, uplift the everyday workers, and honor the giants whose shoulders we stand on right here on KYOK 1140 AM and the all new 106.5 FM in the heart of Houston, Texas. If you're rolling through H-Town or just fired up anywhere in the world, stream us live at kyokradio.org on the CWA Strong app or catch the replay anytime by searching CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast platform, because this space, this time, it's about us. That's right. It's about us. We're talking union contracts, organizing victories, labor rights, human dignity, fair pay, and bold everyday resistance to injustice in every form. So whether you're on the job, in your car, at your kitchen table, or deep in the fight, lean in, honk your horns if you stand with workers. Throw a fist up if you know your worth. Joining me today are the fire starters and truth tellers, Mikeya Jones, Sir Reginald Small, Timmia Wiley, and David Marshall. So buckle up, beloveds, because the power we build together, that power is ours. Let's get into it. Our union brothers, sisters, and siblings at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, they have a victory. That is something to shout about right there. After 3 years on the strike, on the picket lines, the strike has paid off. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette workers have won. The U.S. Third Circuit Court of Appeals has ordered the Post-Gazette to restore workers' rights, reinstate their health care, and compensate them for years of illegal union busting. Claude Cummings, Jr., president of the Communication Workers of America, said this right here: "Let this be a lesson to every boss who thinks they can starve workers into submission. When we fight together, we win together." For over 3 years, strikers published the alternative news outlet Pittsburgh Union Progress, kept the truth alive, and stood tall with union and community support. They raised over $1 million to sustain their families. This win is thanks to you, supporters who walked picket lines, spoke out, and donated so families could keep food on the table. Now, we're asking you to help finish strong, help cover the bills piled up during the strike. Donations go directly to striking families for essentials like rent, groceries, and emergencies. You may continue to donate at cwa.org/PPG-donate. And I got to give you an update because on November 13th, the union voted 84% in favor to end the strike and return to work. So remember, when we fight together, we win together. For today's Unlikely Activist of 2025, we're spotlighting someone who built her career on power, precision, and world-class athletic talent. Built this year, but this year, her activism has taken center stage in a way few expected. We're talking about Coco Gauff, U.S. tennis champion, global superstar, and at just 21 years old, one of the most influential young voices in human rights today. Gauff isn't a politician. She's not a lawyer. She's not a community organizer by training, but she is someone who uses her platform with purpose, and that makes her one of the most important young activists of our time. Coco Gauff's activism began early. At just the age of 16, she stood on the steps of her hometown courthouse in Delray Beach, Florida, and spoke out after the killing of George Floyd. She told the crowd, silence is not an option. But in 2025, her message has evolved into something even bigger: the link between opportunity, equality, youth empowerment, and the systems holding people back. Gauff has taken on issues many athletes avoid, including racial justice, youth voter engagement, women's equality in sports, mental health advocacy, fair pay, and labor rights in athletics. She talks often about how young people are told they aren't old enough to understand. And her answer is simple: we understand more than you think. Coco Gauff has made waves for her stance on civil rights, not just in her speeches, but in her insistence that athletes have a responsibility to speak out. She has said publicly that she supports peaceful protests, community organizing, and efforts to hold systems accountable. She also pushed for more diversity on tennis boards, staff, coaching roles, and decision-making bodies, something the sport has struggled with for decades. But she also extends her activism into women's rights and labor rights in sports. Gauff has been vocal about the need for equal pay, fair sponsorship opportunities, and safe working conditions for athletes, including long overdue reforms around scheduling, traveling, and physical burnout. She reminds people that even in glamorous sports, athletes are still workers, and workers deserve dignity. One of her biggest missions in 2025 has been youth votes and civic engagement. Gauff has launched initiatives encouraging teens and young adults to get active in their communities to understand how policies affect their daily lives. She doesn't tell young people what to think, she encourages them to think for themselves. Coco Gauff is proof that activism doesn't have to come from political insiders or from activists with decades of experience. Sometimes it comes from someone who simply refuses to stay quiet. What makes Coco Gauff an unlikely activist isn't that she speaks out, it's that she does it while balancing global fame, enormous pressure, and the expectations of an entire sport. Yet she stays grounded. She speaks with empathy, and she leads in a way that invites others to stand with her, not behind her. She's young, she's powerful, she's principled, and she represents a new generation of human rights voices rising in 2025. That's today's CWA Hour Power Radio Unlikely Activist of the Week, Coco Gauff, a champion on the court, a champion for justice off of it. Stay tuned. More voices, more power, and more people changing the world in ways no one saw coming right after this. You're listening to KYK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you by visiting kyokradio.org and pressing the Listen Live option. Tune in live every Thursday at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 8 a.m. Pacific on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or your preferred podcast player. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeart Radio, Podchaser, Amazon Music. Search for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at CWA National Human Rights to stay connected, share your thoughts, and join the conversation. We're going to jump over now to the awareness with Mikeya Jones. Good morning, Mikeya.
Good morning, Errol. Good morning, KYOK radio listeners. I'm so happy to be here with you all today. We're going to jump right into our worker wellness section. And today we're going to talk about a wellness issue that spotlight that it deserves, but it affects every single one of us. And that's financial wellness, right? So as we get deeper into the year, and especially heading into the holiday season, money stress can hit harder than ever, right? Bills stack up, expectations rise, and before we know it, our budget is tight and our nerves are even tighter, okay? So today, we're going to slow it down and really talk about financial stress, how it impacts our mental health, and what we can do about it. So whether you're a technician, a customer service rep, a public worker, or holding down multiple roles, financial pressure hits all of us differently, but the impact is real, and a lot of times the impact is the same. So money stress can show up as, you're having trouble sleeping, anxiety around checking your bank account, feeling overwhelmed by bills, tension at work, less patience with your coworkers' family, and it can even show up physically, headaches and fatigue or a lack of hunger. It's important to recognize that financial strain is not a personal failure. It's a real-life issue affecting millions of working people, including our union family. And ignoring it doesn't make it smaller, and naming it, understanding it, and building tools to handle it is how we take our power back. So let's talk a little bit about the holiday season, right? Because this is where financial stress can really skyrocket and just drive people crazy. So every single commercial, every email, every store display, you're getting, toy catalogs in the mail, and everybody's supposed to be having a sale, even though it's only 15% off, which is not really a sale in my opinion. But anyway, you're getting things like buy more, spend big, show your love through gifts. Like you need the newest, biggest, latest TV, even though you just bought a TV last year. And it's easy to feel like we're not doing enough, right? Like if we don't go big, then we're not showing people that we care, or we're not doing something right. But here's the truth. You do not have to spend yourself into stress just because it's the holidays. The pressure is manufactured. Your worth isn't based on gifts, decorations, or matching pajamas. And, you shouldn't let social media or commercials or the hype control you. Like, don't let it make you forget what actually matters, which is connection, care, and showing up for your people in ways that don't drain your wallet or your mental health. So some really great tools that are practical and doable, that you can use every day is to one, not stress about a penny perfect budget, right? Just a simple breakdown of, what's coming in, what must go out, and what can be reduced or paused. So it's not about restriction, it's about clarity, okay? Because stress grows in the unknown. So just build a healthy breathing room budget. Two, set a holiday spending boundary. Decide what you can do, not what others expect you to do. And once you set that boundary, honor it, okay? Because that's financial self-care. And then three, try the 24-hour rule on non-essential purchases. So if it's not a necessity, give yourself 24 hours before you buy it, right? And that cuts down on impulse spending and saves more than you really expect. And I need to work on that one specifically. And then if you really, really need to, use your employee assistance programs or community resources, and look for places that offer financial counseling, because there's a ton of nonprofit credit counseling services that are judgment free, they're free or low cost, and they're designed to help working people. And also, just so you know, asking for help isn't a weakness, it's resourcefulness, and it shows your strength. And then talk about money with the people you trust. Not asking for money, right? Talking about money. So we break the stigma by making finances a normal conversation. And union members thrive when we share our knowledge, share our strategies, and support each other. So we can't ignore the impact, right, of money stress that it has on our emotional well-being. When bills are heavy, your mind is heavy, and that's real. So if you're feeling hopeless or overwhelmed or like you're drowning in responsibilities, please, please, please know that you're not alone and you do not have to tough it out. Mental health support is not just for crisis, it's for maintenance, it's for clarity, and it's relief. And a 10-minute check-in with a counselor or a therapist or just anyone that you feel comfortable talking to can ease the pressure more than you realize. So before we close out in this segment, I just want you to realize your value is not measured in dollars. Your worth is not based on what you can buy someone, and your power is not determined by your paycheck. Financial wellness is about balance, awareness, and giving yourself grace. So take your time, set healthy boundaries, and take care of your mind as much as your money. So thank you so much. You've been listening to the CWA Hour of Power radio show. Stay grounded, stay connected, and remember, your wellness is your power. You're listening to KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you by visiting kyokradio.org and pressing the Listen Live option. Tune in live every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or your preferred podcast player. And at this time, I'm going to turn it right back down over to Errol. Have a great morning.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Mikeya. And we are moving one of our segments, and I know you guys were listening for the Marshall Minute, but we want to give more time to our union dialogue conversation that we had to leave off on last week. And so we're going to turn it right on. We'll jump right on over into our dialogue this morning. We're talking about reclaiming civility, how respect became radical. So, we're talking about, and we're offering a space where we talk about the issues shaping our movement, our nation, and our relationships with each other. And David Marshall has been reflecting on how we got to this point where disagreements turn into disrespect and simple decency. It feels like defiance. And he's here to share his thoughts, and we've got Mikeya joining the dialogue. So come on in, David. Let's talk about this because we have a lot to discuss in this segment right here. And I know you're ready to get it off of your chest.
All right. Good morning, and thank you, Brother Errol. Good morning, CWA family. I've been thinking about this question for a long time. And, thinking, when did showing respect, listening first, or choosing calm over chaos become this radical act? It used to be that civility was a mark of strength, proof that you could stay focused on what mattered even when things got tough. But now, in this day and age, this culture with outrage and algorithms, it feels like anger is the only currency and grace is some form of rebellion. So today, I want to ask this question, not just to Mikeya, but to everyone listening. When did respect become an act of rebellion? Because if we can't even talk to each other with decency, how can we organize together for justice?
David, to answer the actual question, right, I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know exactly where to pinpoint and what time period to pinpoint exactly when it happened. But I'm super happy that you asked the question because I feel like we're in a place now where people have turned disagreements into disrespect, right? It's like there's a line, either you agree with me or you're automatically disrespecting me. And now it's like it goes from so what could have been like a healthy debate or a healthy conversation becomes a confrontation or an argument. And I think that's a really dangerous thing, especially like in our workplaces and in our union halls, because people are on edge, right? Like we live in a really stressful time period. And so most of the time we just react uh and respond and we don't reflect. We don't think about it. We don't look at the bigger picture. We just automatically, well, this is my side, and it's like an attack. And so we're debating to win, right? Instead of to understand our peers or whoever's across the table from us. And when that happens, we lose connection. And when we lose connection, we start to lose our sense of community.
Well, you're exactly right. And the people who gain from that division, they're not the ones struggling to make ends meet. They're the ones in boardrooms, they're in Congress, and in the control rooms. They're the ones who profit when we tear each other down. Because divided people don't bargain well, divided people don't vote together, and divided people don't hold any power. So, maybe civility isn't just about being nice. Maybe, respect is a strategy we can now use as a foundation of resistance and real progress.
And I really love that perspective, David, because, we have to stop thinking that civility means silence, right? Like, civility doesn't mean you ignore injustice. It doesn't mean, that you just act like, things aren't happening. And I'm gonna just segue a little bit here. And it's like now how they turned, like how the term woke, right, has been used to be something like so negative. So like if you're aware of things that are going on in politics, if you're aware of things that are going on in our society, in our economy, and you speak, against what we would say would be like negative things that are impacting us right now, it's like that's a problem, right? That's the thing. It's like you can't be human, and it's like you can't correct someone without them feeling like you're condemning them or you're putting them down. And so we can call out racism, we can call out sexism, we can call out inequalities and inequities, and still treat people like they have the capacity to grow. And I feel like that's the kind of respect that transforms systems, not only the respect to call out what I consider the nonsense, but the respect to be able to receive it.
Right. Well, and the thing is, when you said the term woke, when you're asleep, there's a lot of things that you miss. There's a lot of things that can happen while you're sleeping. And so the term woke to me is defined as being aware and awake. And so we need to practice being aware and awake, especially when the powers that be that, are trying to cause this division, need to be put in check. And so, I think we need to reclaim, those terms that have been used to divide and use them to help, start the growth process. Transformation, it starts with how we speak to one another. We're going to have to go back to practicing empathy, not as a soft skill, but as a survival skill, because empathy keeps us human in the middle of hard conversations. We need to practice active listening, not just waiting for our turn to talk, but truly hearing someone's story.
Hey, David, looked like Reginald had something that he wanted to say. He put his finger on his jaw.
Well,
Jump on
jump
in there,
on in there,
Reginald.
Mr. Small.
I always have something to say, whether or not I have the space to say it or not. But here's the thought. When David did ask the original question, when did this start? I'm not going to pretend that I'm not old enough to go back, and I can go back at least 20 years, and I think I can come up when this started and when people become emboldened to be disrespectful just because there's a disagreement. I can pinpoint it back to 2016, and I'm not going to go and finger point and all of that, but I can tell you because of what happened on main stage politics, there was a shift. It became disrespectful, name calling, mocking, all of that stuff became something that was put on main stage. And because of social media and how it was broadcasted on news channels and all of that, it emboldened people to say, well, if they can say what they want, they can call people names and nickname people on national TV that went all across the world. Well, we can do the same thing. We don't disagree. We start name calling. Facebook is another outlet that we do it, social media. I mean, that is when that started. There used to be where we could disagree and have an intelligent, reasonable conversation. Yes, you could get heated and all of that, and then we go to lunch. Now we go so low with it, so disrespectful with it, there's no coming back. My final point. Yes, it sounds good that we can actually fix this and go back to some point of being civil. But the horse has left the barn and he ain't got no wagon attached. He is just running wild.
Goodness.
And it's going to take a whole lot of grain to bring him back. Thank you for your Errol.
So that sounds like we kind of need to go back to the roots of how the roots of biases and how we learn what we believe. Would you say that, Reginald?
I do believe we have to go back to the roots, and David touched on that. That was the whole question, I believe. He touched on that a little bit. Yes, we have to go back to the root, but there's no way we can improve and get better without trying to identify in truth where this started, at least in our generation. I mean, I'm not trying to go back 200 years because I could go back that far, but I'm not. I'm talking about in this recent time where this shift came. 70s, 60s was I mean, you could say and do anything and you thought it was right because the laws made it right. 70s shifted that where we started containing rhetoric, be it divisive, be it racist. We kind of put that in a bottle. That dragon was caged a little bit. Now we done loosed that demon again, and it's just running. It's running rampant.
But what was it that changed? What did we not have in the 70s and 80s? We didn't have the internet. So
hold on, let's get Timmia, because Timmia jumped in there. Hold up.
Sorry.
Timmia, go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to comment on something that David said a while ago about the term woke. So I'm kind of taking it back. But anytime you have an entity that's attacking something, and they're attacking the word woke the way that they are, that should tell you something. That should tell you, because they're attacking the word woke because they don't want you to be awake. They want you to be asleep. They want you to slumber through what the things that they're doing. And we have to be awake. We have to be reading. We have to be watching the news, and we have to be reading in between the lines to see what's going on in the news so that we can be prepared and be on the front lines to know how to counterattack the attacks against us. And that's all
maybe we need to change that word and say, when you leave out the house, I want you to be cognizant of your surroundings.
Exactly.
Or we could leave the word the way it is, right? Or we can just leave it for what, you know what I mean? It's like, or we can just take it back. I am so, I'm okay. I'm not
Go ahead, because I know you want to take the word back. So we've talked about this before. So yes, we have to take that word back and make sure that everyone is woke, and being woke is being cognizant of everything that is going around around you in your world. You got to be cognizant when you go to the grocery store. Yesterday, I went to the grocery store and I was putting things in the trunk, and then I saw something out of my peripheral vision, and I turned all the way around and looked the man dead in his face. It was you have to be aware of what's going on in your world.
You do. You have to be wide awake, like Katy Perry said in her song, I'm wide awake.
And so, to go back a little bit to the topic, right, at hand, and I love what Reginald said, and, I try not to, well, what I'm not going to do is draw any lines in the sand, right?
Okay.
However, I do feel like as a society, we're receiving a lot of backlash from our choices and who we chose to run our government prior to 2016. And I feel like we have been in a perpetual punishment
Oh,
for
you finna get
for
something started now.
I feel like we've been in a perpetual punishment because there was a time period right before 2016 where it felt like we lived in a new world and there were all of these different, beautiful, rainbow plethora of things, right, that we had not seen before, especially here in this country. And in the
Just
country,
frolicking through the park.
okay, well, I like to frolic. I like a little bit of whimsy in my life. Okay, it felt real whimsical. And it went from frolic and whimsy to order and oppression immediately. And I do feel like now that Reginald has said it, I really do feel like that's when times change. It was like, you know what? I felt like some people, the majority felt like, you know what, we gave you all an inch and it took a mile, and now we're taking it all, and now we're taking it all back. And so, it's really hard to, like I said, pinpoint the exact moment. But I do think that literally after that, respect was lost, and it sucks because we have all of these slogans, I'll say, as a country, because clearly they're not our core values, right? But like these corporations and these companies, we have these slogans that sound great, like, oh, we're all one people and every man is created equal, and you have a freedom of speech and you have the right to protest, and we have all of this paperwork, right, that we're supposed to live by, right? This agreement that is supposed to hold us all together, that we now use as a slogan and a guideline and basically like a hashtag, because nobody is following these rules anymore.
So,
Mhm.
so
All right,
you
David,
think
we
you said
apologize for
no,
hijacking your
no, no,
segment.
no,
Go
it's
ahead.
fine. I was just gonna say, so do you think we need to rehumanize dialogue, like online, in our organizing spaces and politics? Because
Absolutely.
I think that's where we start, because when we stop seeing people as people, things tend to get cruel and really, really easy and really fast, and it ends up becoming the norm.
We have to
So go
Mhm.
ahead.
No, I'm saying we have to rehumanize it, but it's going to take us to do it because we can't leave it up to those that govern us to do that because they are the main ones who are using dehumanizing language.
Right.
Eh,
So go ahead.
No, I just love that you said that. Like we really do have to bring humanity back. So I really love that you said we have to stop dehumanizing people. When we look at people as just like as not people but as other things, we like you said, we don't consider them as human and we just see them as opposition, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like you've ever seen like one of those like Alien versus Predator type movies, right? Where they have like those masks on and
Mm-hmm.
it's like the person is just red. Like they don't see a person, you just see
Mm-hmm.
like a red figure and it's like
Mm-hmm.
attack, right? And it's like the humanity is lost. And I feel like that's where we are. Like we have these lenses on where you either see like the green people that are supposed to be on your side, like the green
Mm-hmm.
figures, or the red one. And if it
Mm-hmm.
comes up as a red one, you just attack. You don't see it as a person.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
totally agree with that, Mikeya. I was troubled on yesterday. I've been troubled a while about what numbers are being reported. I think this is going on in perhaps Charlotte, but it's not just Charlotte. It's in all cities that we're publicizing like we got 250 of them. I mean, it's like you're not talking about people that you're impacting here. Whether you think that we need to reform immigration, all that, that's not the discussion. But to your point, we're not seeing the immigrants as people. You don't see that the son is on TV crying because something happened to his dad, or they don't know where his dad is. These are people that we're talking about. And as long as we don't see them as people, we have a problem.
Absolutely.
And I think that Diana Ross said it best. And I'm gonna use her lyrics. What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
Mhm.
That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
That's true, Errol.
But unfortunately, we have to spell out what love is to people because some people don't know what love is. Some people are raised on love and some people were raised on survival, and that's
Talk
just
about it.
unfortunate.
Or
Ooh.
hatred,
And
right?
hatred,
Yes,
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 Okay.
yes.
Or
You
superiority.
own it.
yes.
Okay, David.
So
Sorry.
is it safe to say? So is it safe to say when we're talking about reclaiming civility, we're really saying, let's bring humanity back into how we treat each other and fight for justice and organize.
I don't want to say bring humanity back. I want to say let's strengthen humanity because some of us ain't never lost it. The same people who are out there, activists who are trying to keep some civility, we need to spread it more, David. So yes, I agree, and let's strengthen it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right,
make it
We need to
cool.
strengthen
Make
it.
it cool to be kind. Make
And,
it
Yes.
yeah, and we have to do
It's
it
cool to be
Oh,
ourselves.
that's
kind.
good.
Hashtag it's
It's
cool to be
cool to be
kind.
kind.
It's cool to be kind, and we have to take the initiative because we
Yes.
can't wait on anybody else to do it. And that goes back to a conversation that we had maybe a week or two ago. It takes us to lead by example and correct people and with kindness, of course, but be the example and stop people in their tracks, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it.
But
Okay.
do it
Yeah.
with love.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I hope people in the future start taking accountability with love. And I'm just gonna leave that right there because I can
All
tell
right.
you all you want.
All right, that. All right, go ahead, David. I'm sorry. We're sorry.
Well, all of that is very powerful, and in labor we always say an injury to one is an injury to all. But if we can't live that out, if we're being too busy tearing each other down, just got to remember that civility it helps us help the person across, helps us identify the person across from us isn't the enemy. At the end of the day, it's the system that exploits us both. So, if we want fair contracts, fair wages, and fair treatment, then we got to start showing fairness to one another. And that's where the real healing begins. So here's the truth. Respect isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Civility isn't compromise, it's courage. And empathy isn't about being soft. It's about being strong and being strong enough to stay human in an inhumane world. If we can bring those values back into our unions, back into our communities, and back into our politics, we can rebuild the bridge that division tried to burn down. So this week, I challenge each of us, have one conversation that shows more respect than reaction. And folks, that's how we begin to rebuild what division tried to destroy. Next week, we'll dive into our next topic, the economics of empathy, while fairness pays, and we'll look at how treating people right isn't just moral, it's smart economics and strong unionism. And so now I'll go back to you, my brother, Errol, your host of the CWA Hour of Power.
Thank you so much, David. And we'll skip next week because next week is going to be Thanksgiving and all of our mouths will be full of turkey dressing and ham, macaroni and cheese with 3, 5, 6, 7 cheeses and butter beans and
Okay, calm
all
down. Not
those.
the beans, greens, beans, tomatoes.
And maybe a
I
few
was
pig
about to
feet
go
while you
there.
at it. Listen.
Oh, what about some barbecue pig feet to go with it?
Listen, gotta have them. Got to have them.
All right. And you can catch CWA Hour Power Radio Show every week right here on KYOK 1140 AM and the Aldo 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you by visiting kyokradio.org and pressing the Listen Live option. Tune in live every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or your preferred podcast player, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and Amazon Music. Search for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at CWA National Human Rights to stay connected. Share your thoughts and join the conversation. Up next, we have Reginald Small. Good morning, Reginald.
Good morning, Errol Minor. How are you today? Obviously, I
I
already
am
know that.
wonderful.
All right, Errol, I'm facing a little difficulty here, and I'm going to have to ask one of my besties to help me out.
Okay, what you got?
Well, today we're turning our attention to the classroom, right? More precisely, we're going to talk about how the education system decides who gets to succeed. And that's exactly why Reginald is having a time, because they get to choose who's successful in the classroom and we don't. So standardized tests are often sold as objective measures of ability, right? But the reality is more complicated than that. And so today I'm going to lead you all in a discussion on how education access and testing shapes who's considered deserving of opportunity. And I just had to tease Reginald today because he's been being mean to me behind the scenes and you all haven't noticed it.
I'm certainly glad you jumped in, Mikeya, because I was getting ready to go on a spiel about healthcare.
But
You got to check that other email.
We're going to turn it over to our resident teacher, Timmia. Take it away.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
today
Come
we're
on,
turning
Timmia.
today we're turning our attention to the classroom, but not just the lessons on the board. We're looking at how the system decides who gets to succeed. As a former educator, I've seen firsthand how standardized testing and unequal resources shape students' futures long before they enter the workforce. These tests are often sold as objective, but in reality, they reflect access, privilege, and systematic bias, not a student's true potential. And that has real consequences for opportunity, equity, and untimely labor power, affecting not just Black and Brown students, but Indigenous students, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, students from lower income backgrounds, immigrant communities, and other underrepresented groups.
Thanks, Timmy. And let's be clear, right? Standardized testing, college entrance exams, and merit-based tracking are often described as fair, but the data tells a different story. So students from low-income and marginalized communities consistently score lower, not because they're less capable, but because the system is stacked against them, right? When you think about high school, everybody didn't have SAT prep. You had sometimes or it wasn't free, right? Everybody didn't have a free tutor or couldn't afford tutors or couldn't afford those additional classes, or the curriculums were just different, or the funding just wasn't there for our kids.
Not only that, can I just jump in here real quick?
Go right ahead.
In my experience, the schools are staffed by the students that you have. And the school that I was in, we didn't have a lot of students at the beginning of the year because our kids had to be long-term suspended to come to our school. So at the beginning of the year, we didn't have a lot of students. And so by the time we started filling up, we didn't have enough textbooks to go around. And you see that a lot of times. When students come to your school from other schools, they don't send resources with them. And it's unfortunate. Whatever school that child starts their school year off at, that's who keeps the resources. And a lot of times in lower funded schools, and I shouldn't say lower funded, and Title I schools, what we call them in North Carolina, when kids come into those school districts, when they move in the middle of the school year, a lot of times with Title I schools, you have kids who move around a lot. It's just systematic. They move around a lot. The funding doesn't follow them. The funding stays where they begin their school year. And they just don't get the same opportunities for the SAT prep. They don't get the same opportunities because the school doesn't have the funding for them because they didn't start the school year off at that school. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, so let me clarify and confirm, because I know that when we start talking about the money's following the student or not following the student, I know that that's something that we talk about when it comes to a child going from a public school to a charter school. So even in the public school system, the money does not follow the child.
It does
If they
not
are
follow
put
the
out of
child.
that.
No,
Okay.
it does not follow the child. The school that I was at is a little bit different. It was an alternative learning environment. So the kids had to be long-term suspended. It was supposed to be a program for like rehabilitation, take them out of a traditional learning environment, bring them into a smaller learning environment where they could have, or the ratios of teacher to student was smaller, but we didn't have enough resources because the funding did not follow them. So by January, February, we were bursting at the seam with students, but we didn't have enough textbooks because their funding did not follow them. The funding stayed at the school where they came from. And you see that trend throughout the school systems.
And so in these neighborhoods, these areas,
we just call them for it is the marginalized communities, the schools that the people don't give the money to, right? The inner city schools, the schools with the black and brown kids. We know what they are, right?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. We gotta call it out. And
We
because
do.
you know,
We
most of the
absolutely
time
do.
most of the times in these towns, in these cities, in these places, in these inner cities, the taxes are higher in the inner city, right? But the money's not going there. The
It's not
money's not
going
going
there.
to the kids like it's
It's not.
supposed to. We got this
It's
whole
not.
North Carolina school lottery thing, and I ain't never seen none of the lottery money. You know, okay, I'm gonna be, I'm sorry.
No, it's so true. It's the paint is falling off the walls on one side of town at the art program. There's a school for the arts on one side of town, and they have a theater program, but the stage lights don't work, the curtains don't work. But you go right across the town on the other side, and they have a theater where the curtains work, the stage lights work, what have you, and it's just by zip code, mere zip code, but it's the same county school system.
And our tax dollars are not dispersed by the zip code that you live in. They're dispersed on by whatever the state or the city or the town says. So you're paying taxes, and you would, and the funds are not going directly to where you live like they should be.
And that affects everybody because your school systems, the classrooms, I should say, they are larger classrooms, outdated textbooks, underfunded extracurricular programs, and children cannot be introduced to other things if you don't have that funding there. So the standardized tests don't measure all abilities. And David, you can jump on in if you want to.
Well, they act as gatekeepers. They deciding who gets the scholarships, who gets into college, and eventually, who gets high paying jobs. Systemic inequities are reinforced from childhood to career. They affect communities across multiple racial, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds.
And if I could just jump in real quick, the teachers for the marginalized schools are your new and there's nothing wrong with being a new teacher because you have to learn. But when you have a school full of new teachers who are learning from new teachers, it's harder you have to have somebody there with some wisdom. And you find your older teachers with wisdom across town who can teach the younger teachers and guide the younger teachers. But in the marginalized schools, the teachers are always turning over. Sometimes they only stay 3 or 4 months. It's really hard to teach towards standard testing when you have substitute teachers in the classrooms all the time. But I'm gonna digress.
All right, come on, Mikeya.
Well, and this just has my mind going to something else that we need to talk about, just in our school system with the teachers, because like Timmia said, not only are there younger teachers and they're more inexperienced, these are also younger, like just people in general. They're not getting paid as much. They have to use their own money to pay for supplies and things in the classrooms, and they can't afford to do that. And a lot of times they leave, right? And they try to go find jobs in these other areas, in these other neighborhoods, and that again limits the progress in our children. And we all know that stability is super important when it comes to education, like stability, repetition, all that is super important when it comes to education. And so I do think that that's something that we need to touch more on when it comes to just this nonsense world that we live in. And you guys already know how I feel about the babies, and I get upset whenever we have conversations about kids because we act like they're not our future. We act like these aren't human beings that are part of society.
Well, I feel so bad Reginald is left out. So Reginald, where did standardized testing come from? How long has it been around?
Errol, I believe you're picking at me today. I
It's
think you're
something
picking at me
that
today. And so, and I got a lot to say after the segment has been completed. But standardized testing, I believe, probably came about more so strongly in the 80s, I would
Mhm.
think.
Okay.
Probably, I mean, I remember that became a big deal. I mean, I finished high school in 1988, and it was a big deal at that point with
Yeah.
standardized testing. And I'm speaking going into college. That's where the
Hmm.
standardized testing came from. I believe they started teaching more directly in the actual elementary and high school, probably teaching towards standardized testing in the 90s.
Well, you're right. Okay, because the roots of standardized testing goes back over a century, right? So originally, it was developed to
Did you
rank
just
students.
call him old?
I'm not even, that wasn't me. That wasn't me, Reginald. So
Well, you know, if you
originally,
call him there, you calling me there because we bubble stuff in when we were in high school.
immediately, no, I'm not touching on that. So originally, standardized testing was developed to rank students efficiently, right? And these tests were also used to enforce social hierarchies. So it often discriminated against immigrants, Black, Indigenous, and poor students. Tracking systems in schools then funneled students into vocational or college prep paths based on those scores.
And even with today, the language has changed, but the outcome hasn't. You still have schools in affluent areas; they continue to get more funding per student, and while students in marginalized communities um, across multiple racial, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds, they get fewer resources and opportunities for advanced coursework. So, yet their performance is judged on the same standardized scale, and that's important to highlight uh, that this isn't just academic. These disparities carry lifelong economic consequences. Lower test scores can block out access to higher education, scholarships, and ultimately, even the higher paying jobs, which David has stated earlier. So the system creates a cycle that it's extremely hard to break. Come on, Timmia.
Well, before Timmia goes on, I want to go back to standardized testing and the way that I was speaking towards it. We're actually housed in the building with the president and some the NEA here in the Dallas area, and I talk with teachers all the time. And the period that I'm actually speaking of, when teachers stopped having to teach or they could not teach the fundamentals of mathematics, English, the basics of learning because they were teaching towards higher testing scores and teaching towards children passing the standardized testing. That is
Mm-hmm.
that is what I'm
Okay.
talking about that came about in the 80s and in the 90s. And where we now, the children are, the results of that are you have children that don't understand reading, but they've been taught how to pass a standardized test.
And that new math that ain't new.
Right.
Because when I went back to college to get my license and stuff, I was looking at that math and I say, this is not how you do that. And I got my daughter, which is 28 years old. She's 28 years old. I said, hey, come here, show me how to do this new math or whatever. And she sat me down and she was showing me, and I said, listen, let me show you another way. And she said, and she was like, oh, how did you do that? And I used my old way throughout that entire course and passed it with an A. Thank you.
well, because
Mhm.
I mean, 2 plus 2, I don't care whether you call it old or new, 2 plus 2, you need to get to
It's
4.
still 4.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it. That's
And whether
it.
you carry the one when you add it, I mean, what?
Mhm.
Right. Or use your toes or your
Yes.
fingers or whatever. It does not matter just as long as you get the right answer.
That's it.
And
But
so, go
go
ahead,
And
ahead.
and,
Timmy.
and Timmy and Timmia hit it earlier about the zip codes. You remember saying that earlier about it shouldn't your monies should not be, or was that Mikeya?
I
Your
think it was
tax
me.
dollars shouldn't be determined by your zip code
We
because we're
both
all
touched
paying
on
the
that.
same.
Yeah.
We
Okay,
both
all right.
touched on that. And I mean,
Okay.
it's the systematic racism. It's built into the funding structures. We talked about that, about how local property taxes fund schools. So the wealthy areas have better funded schools, which perpetuate inequality across generations and communities. It's and it's just a little known fact, your school number, which is connected to your lunch number, whether you have free or reduced lunch, is connected to the prison system. That's how they're able
Mm,
to
Talk about it.
determine how many
Talk
mm.
beds
about
they
it.
need in the prison to build in the future, how many prison beds they need to have in the community
Uh-huh.
in the
Well, you know,
future.
I already told you we need to watch that thing, that movie together, so we can probably develop some series on that.
Yeah. And
Okay.
if you
I'm
look at
sorry.
it, the in the marginalized communities, they are suspended at higher rates. The Black boys are suspended at higher rates for less infractions. Same with Black girls. And
They
how
come
can
into the
you?
schools and arrest them. You know what I
Yes,
mean? They
yes,
actually
yes, they
arrest
do.
children
Yes, they do, and
yes,
charge
they
them.
without their parents present.
Yes. And how can you learn if you're always suspended? You put
Right.
them out of school. That doesn't, and for the same infraction, and it's the same as the court system. A Caucasian child and a Black child do the same crime, or they should same offense. One of them is suspended, the other one gets detention.
Mm-hmm.
The crime doesn't fit. The punishment doesn't fit the crime.
So, David, let me ask you a question. What is the human cost and the labor connection with this?
Well, the human cost is, expanding, these programs, after school programs and stuff, to give these kids opportunity, whether it be, college prep, in underserved communities, any of that kind of stuff will help.
Mm-hmm.
And when we educate, our youth and get them up to par, it makes them more successful in life and whatever they, end up going to be. It's one of those deals where, kids need to be given every opportunity, and the playing field needs to really be level. I think about, during the COVID, we had, lots of kids that didn't have Wi-Fi at their home, that had to go to, McDonald's and the Starbucks to get Wi-Fi to do their homework. Those things make an impact when, you're trying to, go to college and prep for those things. So we just got to really level the playing field for all students so that they all have a chance to really be competitive as it comes up.
All right. And okay, go ahead, Mikeya. You want me to do it? Do you want me to talk about it? All right. And this connects directly to labor, because workers who are excluded from higher education opportunities often end up in low-wage jobs, unstable jobs, and lack of access to education reinforces class division and limits mobility. And so unions can play a role supporting programs for adult education, vocational training, and tuition assistance creates pathways for workers and their children. And even right here in the state of Alabama, we are at a critical juncture of having welders even on the docks in Mobile. That is something that we talk about in our CLC meetings every month. Okay, go ahead, Timmia.
No, just me. I'm angry. I'll be real honest with you. I'm angry with the system. I almost wonder sometimes if they took the vocational classes out to take something from us, because a lot of times people will cut off their nose to smite their faces,
Mm-hmm.
because there's nothing wrong with learning a trade. You
Right.
can learn a trade and do better than somebody with a college degree. Somebody came up with this plan that you have to have a college degree to be something in America, but you can have a college degree and owe $100,000 in debt, or you can go and learn a trade in 2 years and be earning $100,000 a year.
And
Um,
and
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I think all of us are passionate about this, and one of the things that I'm having a problem with is finding individuals that can do woodworking. I have a problem right here in my own home where squirrels have eaten the cornice board and up in my attic, but everybody wants to just come out and do the patchwork, and I just don't want patchwork. I want the boards replaced. I
Right.
guess I'm being. Am I being too harsh? No. I
So,
answer my
so,
own question.
so,
Go.
so you're not being harsh, but I'm going to throw
Okay.
this in here that if you look a little bit back, it seems like I'm the one keep looking backwards. But when you look a little bit back,
You're gonna turn into salt. Keep on
the
looking
reason
back.
that education became so popular in college education because there was a time that minorities could not go to college for many obstacles, and we thought at that time, and I don't disagree with it, that education was the way to advance our people, was to become educated so that we could be more marketable and be more competitive in certain industries. As time has gone on, the college price has gone up, and and so many people have degrees. Now there is a lack of people in the skilled trades industries. And so now the vocation stuff has come back to go to what we used
Mm-hmm.
to call trade school and all of that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a plumber, with being a
No.
carpenter, with being a
Electrician.
hairdresser, a
Mm-mm.
funeral director. It's nothing wrong with any of those
Mm-mm.
professions. But I just wanted to throw that in that is why college became a thing that every person wanted their child to have a better future than they did because they were withheld from these opportunities. So we wanted our children to go to college so that they could have a fair opportunity to compete in the world and hopefully have a better life for themselves.
Well, listen, we're running out of time, and we want to get this union buster in. We're going to have to probably pick this back up again in a couple of weeks. This is an awesome topic that we can revisit. So we're going to turn it over now into the hands of Timmia Wiley for the union buster of the week.
Union Buster of the Week. Good afternoon, sisters, brothers, and siblings in the struggle. It's me, Timmia Wiley, like the coyote, and you're still tuned in to Our Power Radio, where we call out corporate greed and stand up for worker justice. Every week, we shine a light on a company that tries to break the spirit of working people, strip away our dignity, or weaken our voice, because when workers lose, communities lose. This week's Union Buster of the Week is Walgreens. Yes, the same Walgreens where millions of Americans pick up prescriptions, household items, and flu shots. And the same company that just cut paid holidays for its hourly workers. Here's what happened in August 2025. Walgreens was officially acquired by Sycamore Partners, a private equity firm, in a $10 billion buyout. Just weeks later, in early October 2025, the company informed its hourly employees that it was eliminating 6 paid holidays. Gone are guaranteed paydays for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Day, Memorial Day, the 4th of July, and even Labor Day. Before this change, if you were an eligible hourly worker, you got paid for those holidays, whether or not you worked. That's now gone. Walgreens says if you want to get paid, you either have to use your own paid time off or work the holiday. This sudden change came with no consultation, no transparency, and no voice from the employees who actually made Walgreens run every single day. Let's talk about what that means on the ground. For hourly workers making around $15 to $20 an hour, losing 6 paid holidays equals about $1,000 less per week. That's rent, groceries, medicine, or gas money gone. Workers are already saying this feels like a stealth pay cut. One employee told reporters, it's the difference between having your bills paid and putting food on the table. At the same time, Walgreens is closing stores, cutting corporate jobs, and chasing cost savings, all while its new private equity owners prepare to profit. This is what happens when companies view people as numbers and call it efficiency. It's not efficiency, it's exploitation. So here's the truth. Walgreens doesn't determine whether you have a union, you do. If you're a Walgreens worker listening today and you're frustrated, angry, or just plain tired, don't let the frustration die out. Channel it into organizing. So this week, Walgreens earns the title of Union Buster of the Week. for taking from the employees, workers during a season that's supposed to give back. I'm Timmia, reminding you that the worker power and the prescription that corporations fear most. Keep your head high, your voice loud, and your solidarity strong. Because when we fight together, we win together. This has been your Union Buster of the Week. Back to you, Errol.
Thank you so much, Timmy. An hour is not long enough to be with you, and a week is too long to be away from you. You have been tuned into the CWA Human Rights Hour Power broadcast. I hope something you heard today has inspired you to take action toward creating positive change in the world. Every person has the power to make a difference, no matter how small. And by working together, we can create a world where human rights are respected and valued. So I encourage each of you in the listening audience to reflect on your role in promoting human rights to effect change in your communities and beyond. Know that you are not alone in your quest for a more just and equitable world. When faced with injustice, it can be easy to lose hope and give up. But remember, justice may be slow like the truth, but when it finally comes, it will stand. Until next Thursday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, right here on KYOK 1140 a.m. and the all-new 106.5 FM KYOKradio.org. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.